Hey everyone, and welcome to What Did I Miss?, where today I'll be breaking down the 8th episode of the final season of Better Call Saul, titled Point and Shoot, while also looking for all the references and Easter eggs to Breaking Bad that you may have missed. Coming off a month-long hiatus, Better Call Saul did not waste any time easing the audience back into the drama, as after a nail-biting cat-and-mouse game, another cast member's story comes to a close in a sudden and unexpected fashion. But what I really found interesting were all the subtle hints and connections to the future of these characters and others, and I'll break that all down and more here. But first, I want to thank you for clicking on this video, and ask that if you do enjoy it, to please hit the like and subscribe buttons. The title of this episode is a reference to the instructions that Lalo gives Jimmy and Kim after he tells them that one will have to go and kill a man who turns out to be Gus Fring.
Door opens, you point, and you shoot, and you keep on pulling that trigger until it's empty.
But I believe that this is also a reference to Lalo's fate in this episode, as he is pointing and shooting a camera at Gus to listen to his confession before he plans to kill him, but never gets the chance. Ironically, if Lalo would have listened to the same instructions he gave Jimmy and Kim, and just pointed at and shot Gus with a gun when he had the chance, then he would have survived this ordeal. Both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are known for showing the audience events that occur out of order, and will often start an episode, or even a whole season, in the final moments. The creators of this series use this narrative approach again, as this episode begins with the staged suicide of Howard Hamlin, which occurs after the final moments of this episode. I mentioned in my video about Howard's death that he was shot in the head in almost the exact same place that Nacho shot himself in the head, and that this thematically connects these two characters that never even shared a scene together. But this intro sequence looks to be shot in a very similar fashion to the intro of the 3rd episode of this season, Rock and Hard Place, which also was Nacho Varga's final episode. I believe the purpose of this is to stress to the audience that these two characters, while being from different walks of life, followed a very similar path. Vince Gilligan seems to love to prove to the audience that there are no good or bad characters, and that anyone could end up in these types of circumstances based on the choices they make. Both of these characters seemed like very powerful men to the people in their circles, but neither was really in control of their life, and in the end, their choices led them to an early grave, even if they didn't necessarily deserve it. After the intro, the episode begins right where the last one ended, with Howard lying dead on the floor and both Jimmy and Kim in a state of shock and panic. Lalo tells Jimmy that he is to take his car to an address he has written down and use the gun in the glove compartment to kill the man who answers the door. Jimmy does the bravest thing that I think we have seen him do on either show, and convinces Lalo to let Kim go instead of him. He obviously did this so that Kim would not be left alone with Lalo, and so that she could escape. After Kim leaves, Lalo binds Jimmy to a chair and explains to him about the attack at his house in Mexico. Lalo also tells Jimmy that the reason he came to see him is that he was introduced to him by Nacho, so because of this, Jimmy might know something about the attack. Jimmy pleads with Lalo that this is not the case, and if you notice, he says almost the exact same thing to him that he says to Walt and Jesse in the desert during the Breaking Bad episode titled Better Call Saul.
It wasn't me, it was Ignacio, he's the one!
Listen, you gotta believe me, hand to God, I had no part in this. It wasn't me, it was Ignacio.
This means that in the desert in Breaking Bad, Jimmy, then Saul, believes that he is being brought there as a repercussion for the events he is told by Lalo in this episode. This is a huge revelation, as that scene in the desert from Saul's first appearance on Breaking Bad was the basis that the series Better Call Saul is based around. And now, after hearing Saul reference Lalo and Ignacio all those years later, we finally know what Saul was so scared of. It is a testament to the fear that Lalo put in Jimmy that even after he is told at the end of this episode that Lalo is dead, that he still fears that Lalo will come after him later. This may be a clue as to why Kim is not seen during the events of Breaking Bad, since if she and Jimmy are still traumatized by the events surrounding Lalo and Howard, then she might not be able to continue on without disappearing first. After Lalo secures Jimmy to a chair, he leaves him there by himself. Jimmy tries to free himself, but instead is only able to fall on the floor right next to Howard's lifeless body. This shot is very similar to many others in which one main character has witnessed another one shot in the head in front of them, such as the scene from Gus's past that was depicted in the Breaking Bad episode Hermanos, in which Gus is held down next to the lifeless body of his partner Max, as well as how Walter White broke down after the death of Hank in the episode Ozymandias, and how Jesse reacted to Andrea's death in the episode Granite State. As Kim arrives at the address, it is revealed to be the address of Gus Fring. If this scene felt very familiar, it is because it is very similar to a scene from the Breaking Bad episode 38 Snub, in which Walter arrives at Gus's house to also shoot him, but is turned away. Kim even parks her car in almost the exact same place that Walter did in that scene, and the vehicles they are driving are also very similar. I also thought that the way Kim approached Gus's door was very reminiscent of the way that Jesse approached Gale Boetticher's door before he was compelled to shoot him in the head in the Breaking Bad episode titled Full Measure. Also, in both scenes, the person holding the gun is forced into that situation in an effort to save the life of someone who's being held captive. Kim is questioned by Mike, while Gus is able to watch safely from a connecting house. After learning that Lalo is supposedly at Kim and Jimmy's apartment, Mike sends almost all of their men to that location. Gus, on the other hand, is restless and talks to Kim directly about the events that brought her to his house. After learning that Jimmy was able to change Lalo's plan, something that Gus does not expect, he ends the call and leaves the house. The strategy that both Lalo and Gus use in this episode is really mind-blowing and shows just how smart both villains are. Lalo and Gus have been playing chess with each other ever since Lalo came to New Mexico, and it is really astounding to witness the long game between them. Gus heads Lalo down to his secret lab below the laundry, where Lalo creates a videotape for Don Eladio explaining how Gus is planning to supplant his business in the US. If you are wondering why Lalo didn't just FaceTime with the Don, you have to remember that this season takes place somewhere around 2004. And while you could make a video call then, the technology was not as advanced as it is now, so the most reliable way to record a confession would have been to make a video. If you recall, in the final season of Breaking Bad, Hank also made a video of Jesse's confession with a similar style camera. In both cases, the person making the confession despises their employer as well. Instead of groveling in front of Lalo, Gus becomes defiant and explains how he stood by while Hector was crippled and that he believes that the cartel and the Salamancas are pigs. This causes Lalo to pause, which allows Gus to cause a distraction and grab a gun that he had stashed there. This is the second time that we have seen a Salamanca told off before his last moments, as Walt also told Tuco Salamanca what he thought of him before he and Jesse were able to shoot him. The most amazing part of this sequence for me is that Gus knew that Lalo would eventually find his underground lab, which is why he set up the scene 3 episodes ago. As in the episode Black and Blue, we witness Gus moving the power cable that he ends up kicking and placing a gun where he could find it later. In the aftermath, Gus is wounded but is still the same man. A hole is dug at the dig site, and both Lalo and Howard's bodies are placed in it. I couldn't help but think that this burial is very similar to the burial that Steve Gomez and Hank were given.
My name is Asac Schrader.
In the aforementioned Breaking Bad episode Ozymandias. The episode ends with Mike explaining to Jimmy and Kim what they need to tell the police about Howard and how they are going to stage his disappearance as a suicide. This is not the first time that Mike has had to help clean up after a death, as in his first appearance, he helped Jesse prepare for the police after Jane overdosed in the episode ABQ. It is also worth noting that with the deaths of Nacho, Howard, and now Lalo, that Kim is the only main character from Better Call Saul that does not appear on Breaking Bad that is still alive. Since it would appear that the danger has been neutralized, it'll be very interesting to see where her story goes from here. But let me know in the comments, what do you think is next for Kim, and how do you think the series will end? Well, that was everything I saw, but let me know in the comments if I missed anything. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please hit that like button if you have enjoyed it, and I will see you next time on What Did I Miss?